Good morning and welcome back to Planet Doug Behind the Scenes in Malaysia. I'm back in Malaysia. I'm at the Seafront Hotel, the Seafront or PD Seafront or Seafront PD Hotel. PD of course stands for Port Dickson. My lovely room here, very happy here. This is a hotel where I stayed a long time ago when I made my first trip to Sumatra by ferry. A friend of mine, Matthew, he drove me from Kuala Lumpur to Port Dickson, and I had my bike and all my trailer and all my gear in the back of his SUV, and he dropped me off here at the Seafront Hotel. This is where I spent the night back then, and I was pretty pleased with the place. Really friendly owners, really great guys, and the room was at a good price for what you get. You know, it's good value, and the rooms were relatively large. So I always look for the larger room if I can find it, because you got to roll your bike in, roll your trailer in, stuff like that. So the bigger the room, the better. And this hotel, you know, fit the bill. And it is, what's the day today? Tuesday, I think? Wednesday. It is Wednesday, September 13th, 10 o'clock. Oh, no, it's not 10 o'clock in the morning. It is 11 o'clock in the morning. I had to laugh because I have this problem every time I change time zones, because all of my, you know, phones and tablets and laptops, I can eventually figure out how to change the time on those. And, you know, if you set it to automatic, sometimes it automatically resets to the new time zone. But my Casio G-Shock, for whatever reason, every time I forget how to change the time. And I think I remember, because I've had Casio watches my entire life, and it's a similar sequence of button pushes to get to the screen where you change the time, and I should remember how to do it. And yet every single time I have to look it up all over again. And yeah, a friend of mine and Planet Doug subscriber told me that I can download an app for this particular phone, put the app on my phone, or for this particular watch. So I have the app on my phone, and then from my phone I can control the watch and set the time more easily. But I haven't gotten around to doing that, and I don't know whether I will or not, because technology, man, too much, too many apps, too many programs, too many devices. It's just overwhelming. And adding one more app to my life just so I can change the time, that seems a bit much. But I guess this G-Shock is really powerful, and it can do all kinds of other things, you know, keep track of all kinds of data using GPS, I guess, and this and that. And then you could monitor all this from your smartphone Casio app. But as I said, I don't have enough room in my brain at this point for yet another program that I have to learn. And, you know, it would take me an hour or two just to figure out the basics and get them to talk to each other and connect. And anyway, my watch is currently set to the wrong time. It's set to Sumatra time. So it is 11 a.m., not 10 a.m. And it's a bit late for a behind the scenes video, and that's because I had things to do, but also technology problems. It's like I keep trying to come up with a proper analogy for what it is like to try to make YouTube videos. And the best one I can think of is like a carpenter, and the carpenter's job is to build a house. So that's what he wakes up in the morning and is like, okay, today I'm going to start working on that house. I'm going to lay the foundations and pour the cement and start framing up the walls, and I'm going to build the house today. And he wakes up in the morning and he's getting ready to go, and it's like, oh, my hammer is broken. You know, my hammer won't work. So he has to spend the day, you know, getting a new hammer. So he couldn't actually build the house. And then the next day he wakes up in the morning, he's got his new hammer, he's ready to go, and it's like, oh, my saw won't work. You know, he's pushing the button, and for what he plugs it in and charges up the battery, and you know, my saw won't work, and he has to spend the whole day fixing his saw. Okay, now day number 3, now we're gonna go build that house. You know, he gets his saw and his hammer, and he goes out to his truck, and he's gonna drive to the work site, and the truck won't start. So now he has to fix the truck, you know, and day after day after day, none of his tools will work, and he never actually gets around to building the house, which is the main thing he's supposed to be doing. And for a YouTuber, it's exactly the same. Your job is to upload videos. And then every single morning, the whole morning is spent just fixing stuff, dealing with little technical problems. There's just no end to them. And, you know, so, yeah, I can't figure it out. I don't even know if I should even bother telling the stories, because it's all I do is tell technology problem stories. But I have a Malaysian SIM card, Digi, through the Digi company, in my phone, and it's still valid, still good to go. And so what I wanted to do was get data, right? I have to activate the SIM card and get data, kind of, yeah, do that. And what I did yesterday was I transferred money from my Touch and Go eWallet to Digi, which you can do, like you select reload on your Digi app, and you can reload with a PIN. Like you can get credit from a 7-Eleven, and they give you a receipt with a PIN, and you enter the PIN, or you can reload directly from your bank. You know, there's like a dozen different ways, and one of the options is to use your Touch and Go eWallet, and that's the only option I have other than going to 7-Eleven. So I thought, let's give that a try. So I did that yesterday, and I successfully transferred 30 ringgit from Touch and Go eWallet to Digi. And my plan was to buy this 20 ringgit package, data package. So I only needed 20 ringgit, but I thought I'd transfer 30 just to be safe. And everything went through. It actually worked. It was pretty hard to do, because now you have to go into your e-wallet and you have to enter your code there, and then you have to answer the security question. They send you an OTP, you know, a one-time code, and now you have to enter that in. It's a process. But then I got a billion emails that all said, success, you have transferred 30 ringgit to your Digi account. Thank you very much. I go to my Digi account, and there's 16 ringgit. I transferred 30, but only 16 ended up in my Digi account. And so like, where did the 14 ringgit go? So now, you know, this morning, you know, and yesterday, I'm diving into Digi. I'm going all through the system. I'm looking for transactions. I'm looking for a list of payments and fees. Because normally these big companies like Digi, they'll just hit you with fees and fees and fees. And if you're ever moving money from one account to another, you know, 10-20% of it gets siphoned away, because, you know, they're going to charge you a bunch of stuff. They always do. And Digi does this thing that all companies do, where even if you have credit, they put a time limit on it. You know, you have money in your account, but if you don't use it by a certain day, it expires. But of course, the money doesn't expire. They just take it away from you. It's like, oh, you didn't spend it? Oh, we're going to take it away from you because you didn't spend it on our products. So they force you to spend it, and if you don't, they have the legal right to take it away from you. And this sort of stuff just drives me crazy. It doesn't seem like it should even be legal. But anyway, now I didn't have enough money in the account, because I only had 16 ringgit. It wasn't enough to buy the data package. So it's like, oh, for Pete's sake, I got to go through that whole process again and transfer more. But before I transfer more, I want to understand what happened. How is it that I transferred 30, but only 16 showed up? I want to understand the system before I use it again. You know, I'm not going to lose a night's sleep over 14 ringgit. You know, I'm not going to go crazy over that. But at the same time, I want to know how these things work. So I'm diving into the system. I can't find any information anywhere. But there was a little button I could press that said, if you want us to send you a list of all the transactions for the last 30 days, click here. So I click there. I have to enter an email address and a one-time security code, and they send me a PDF that says, you know, your transactions for the last 30 days. So I figure I can get an answer here. I open the PDF, and it's completely empty. There's where the list of transactions is supposed to be for the last 30 days, and there's nothing there. Like, it's just completely blank. So that didn't work. So I woke up this morning and I was going to dive into that again. I was actually going to send a ticket into Digi. Like, why not? You know, give this company a hard time and report to them that, okay, this happened. I transferred 30, but only 16 showed up. What happened? Can you explain this to me? I was going to make them work for their money. But then that was so complicated to fill out that form. It just went on and on and on. There were so many stages to it, where you had to specify what the problem was, and they have to know the date that you made the transfer, the time that you made the transfer, the ID code for the transfer. I mean, they needed everything. You have to invest a lot of time just to fill out that form before you can even contact them with a complaint, you know, or with a question. So I got all the way to the end, and then I had to do something else at the very end. I forget what it was. But then, in order to get that information, I had to go back to the home page of Digi, and then out of nowhere, I suddenly had a whole bunch of data. Like, yesterday, there was nothing, like zero data of any kind. I had no gigabytes, no social media data, like no data at all, just 0, 0, 0 across the board. But now, when I went in, suddenly, I had a whole bunch of data. I had 10 gigabytes of this type of internet data and 5 gigabytes of this and 2 gigabytes of social media data. You know how they divide it all up, just to confuse you, I think. And I thought, well, what the heck just happened, right? So then it turns out, after I did more research, that on my Digi account, I already had a monthly subscription plan. And as far as I can make out, that's the only way that you can get data through Digi. I've never been able to just go into Digi and say, okay, I want to buy 20 gigabytes of data, buy 20 gigabytes. It doesn't work that way. They force you to buy a monthly auto-renewing subscription. So you have no choice but to do that. And apparently, I had a monthly auto-renew subscription already on my account from when I was here in Malaysia months ago. And the way those subscriptions work is they just sort of sit there on your account waiting for money. And the second any money appears in your account, it activates and takes the money to pay for itself, right? It's like a life form, a money devouring life form, just waiting there. And if there's any money in your account, it automatically takes the money and renews itself. You have no control over this. And apparently that's what happened. So when I transferred the 30 ringgit into my account, this subscription plan automatically turned on and paid for itself. But even that made no sense, because yesterday, even though this happened, no data showed up. So I ended up purchasing a data plan, and yet no data appeared until this morning, and the data plan was 20 ringgit. So 30 minus 20, I should have 10 ringgit in my account, but there was 16 ringgit in my account. So somehow I had only paid 14 ringgit for this 20 ringgit monthly auto-renewing plan. So I'm trying to figure out why that happened, like how does that work? And basically that was the equivalent of the carpenter discovering that his hammer doesn't work. You know, his hammer is broken. I woke up this morning, and after over an hour just trying to figure out how I can turn on my Digi SIM card and get data on it. And yeah, it took up a lot of time yesterday, took up a ton of time this morning just doing that. So I got that done, and then for whatever reason my MacBook will not connect to Wi-Fi. I have Wi-Fi here at the hotel, and it won't connect to the hotel's Wi-Fi signal. And then what I normally do to get around that problem, for some weird reason my MacBook won't connect to hotel Wi-Fi signals. But what I do then is take one of my phones, not my Digi phone, because I don't want to use mobile data. I just use my other phone. I connect this to the hotel Wi-Fi. That works fine. And then I create a hotspot here and connect the MacBook to my phone. So my computer is connected to hotel Wi-Fi, but through my phone. But this morning, even that wouldn't work. So now another hour goes by. All I've been trying to do this morning is get my SIM card operational and get my MacBook working. And the whole morning has disappeared just dealing with these technology problems. And funny story, my kettle fell apart. The lid has, you know, a little, the aluminum lid has a little plastic knob on it with a screw, and the screw fell out and it will no longer stay in place. So I fixed it with kind of a GoPro thumb screw for a while, but it wasn't really a good fix. So yesterday when I was walking around this neighborhood, I went to a store and I bought a bottle of super glue. And I was talking about this in another video. It's kind of funny how my life goes full circle, because the last time I stayed here at the Seafront Hotel, I also went to that exact same store and bought this exact same bottle of super glue. And eventually I had to throw it away because, you know, once you puncture the seal and you use it, it starts to dry up. And the next time you need your super glue, this bottle isn't usable anymore. So you have to buy a new bottle every time. And the last time I was here, I bought super glue from that store to fix it. Now here I am again, and the very first thing I did was I went to that same store, bought more super glue, and then I was going to pour this into the plastic knob and then put it onto the lid and then put in the screw, and the thread won't hold it in place anymore, but I thought the super glue would. And they did. I don't remember getting this before, but with this super glue they gave me a pin this time, like a thumbtack, which you can use to puncture the seal. But no matter how hard I push down on this thing, I can't make it through the seal. So I think I'm supposed to cut it at some point, but I didn't want to bother with doing that, and I needed a lot of super glue, so all I did was unscrew the top, and then I took the plastic knob and all I did was like pour the super glue directly into the knob. And you know how that went, of course. No matter how careful you are, yeah, super glue just went flying everywhere. So my whole world is stuck together right now. So that was my other technology issue. And I think that, oh, there were other ones. I won't go into them. There are just too many of them. So that is why it's 11 o'clock in the morning and I'm starting a behind the scenes video, because my entire morning, I think I got out of bed this morning at about 5 a.m. and the whole morning I've been doing nothing but working on technology. And just like that poor carpenter, I haven't even begun to upload a video yet. I have videos to upload, videos to edit, comments to reply to, and I haven't been able to do any of those things because all I've been doing is working on my tools. Crazy. But yeah, that's how my life goes. I'm gonna get my cup of coffee, my kettle is boiling, and then I will tell the story of my journey from Sumatra back to Malaysia, which is a very typical Planet Doug sort of experience. Yeah, the Planet Doug life. Yeah. Anyway, I'll grab a coffee and I'll tell you the story. I just realized I haven't done any kind of a speed test here, so let's do that with one of my phones. And I guess we just press the big word go in the middle of the screen and let it do its thing, and we'll see what it says. Whoa. I just said whoa because the needle went flying up. I'm not used to the needle moving hardly at all. But this is for 36.1 megabytes per second download, and for upload, looks like it's going to settle on a pretty significant number. How in the world could I have those upload speeds? It says 25 megabytes per second upload. That's crazy fast for me, but that doesn't make any sense because I eventually did get my MacBook to connect to this phone, which connects to the Wi-Fi, and I am uploading a video now. It's just, who knows how I even got it to work, and it's been uploading forever, and it's at 6%. It seems to have stalled. It's not uploading at all anymore, so I don't know where those upload speeds are coming from because it's not showing up on my MacBook. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Oh yeah, there's my little lid for my kettle, little knob on it, now firmly back in place. It's amazing how a little thing like that makes a big difference. Just not being able to use the lid properly, you know, on your kettle. So I got that fixed. So as I said, I'm in Malaysia. I'm in a hotel at Port Dickson. This is where the ferry comes. So I took a ferry from the town of Dumai, which is on the coast of Sumatra, to here. And from Dumai, you can take a ferry. It's called the Indomal Fast Ferry. Indomal Fast Ferry. You can take it from Dumai to Malacca. Costs 550,000 rupiah. Or you can come to Port Dickson, which costs 650,000 rupiah. I believe the boat that goes to Port Dickson is larger and faster than the one which goes to Malacca, which accounts for the 100,000 rupiah, you know, increase in price. And it was much faster than I remember it being before. In the old days, I would take ferries from Port Klang to a little, very small fishing harbor, practically, a fishing village called Tanjung Balai. And I remember that boat being very slow. I mean, it would be like a 6-hour journey, 7-hour journey, took a long time. But I really enjoyed that boat because it was wide open, kind of old and clunky and broken down. And there was a community of people that seemed to live on the boat. There were people that even made money just going back and forth on the boat, because back in those days they could sell SIM cards, they could change money for all the people on the boat. And as I've talked about before, they offered this service for Indonesian migrant workers. If they were coming to Malaysia to work, they had to prove they had a certain amount of money before immigration would let them into the country. But they didn't have any money, so what they would do is rent money from these people on the boat. I saw them on the boat walking around, these people with big stacks, like bricks of cash, and then they would rent them to the people coming to Malaysia. And then when these people go through immigration in Malaysia and the immigration officer says, oh, do you have this much money? And they would take out this brick and say, yes, here is my money. And then they would let them into the country. But as soon as they go through immigration, the person will be waiting for them, and they take all that money back again, and they get paid for that service. Anyway, so you have all this activity on the boat. It was like a floating village. But the boats from Port Dickson, these more modern boats, they're just like airliners. It's like getting into a jet. And you sit down in a seat that's just like being on an airplane. It goes really fast and makes a roaring sound, just like that sound you get in a jet. And yeah, it took 2.5 hours. The ride from Dumai to Port Dickson was 2.5 hours exactly. So yeah, it was much faster than I remember. I was tracking my progress on Google Maps, of course, watching my blue dot, and then before I knew it, I was like off the coast of Malaysia, and I was like, how the heck did we get here so quickly? But I guess this particular boat is a very fast one. Of course, the overall journey is much longer than 2.5 hours, because even though my ferry left at 11, it's a boat crossing an international border, so it's just like going to an airport, and they recommend that you get to the harbor 2 hours early. So it leaves at 11, but they want you at the dock at 9. And then me, because I'm going to be the only foreigner on the boat, so that could lead to, problems with my passport and with immigration and visas. So you have to, leave time for that. And I was going to have my bicycle and my trailer, and that's awkward luggage to handle. So could be issues with that as well. So I want to get there as early as possible. So I think I showed up at 8:30 or something like that, 2.5 hours before ferry departure at 11. And then when we got to Port Dickson, the first thing they have to do is unload all the luggage. This is different from an airplane. Like an airplane is more efficient because passengers disembark through one door and the luggage goes out through a different door and goes through a different system. So people can get off the plane as soon as it lands, basically. But with the boat, they have to get the luggage off first, because all the luggage goes out through the same door of the boat, and it goes down the same dock. You know, they pile it up on all these luggage carts and then roll it into the building. But in order to do that, they can't have, you know, 200 or 300 people crowding the dock. So basically, they rope off all of the passengers and hold you on the boat while they unload the luggage. And that took about an hour. So even though it only took 2.5 hours to get there, we sat at the dock for over an hour just waiting to get off the boat, because first they had to, you know, tie up the boat with all the ropes and go through their safety and security procedures, whatever they are, and then they have to unload all the luggage by hand. The luggage goes into a hold in the bottom of the boat, like through a big trap door, and someone has to climb down, or several men climb down into the cargo hold, and they have to pick up all the bags and the suitcases and lift them up, and then they get carried, they get handed, you know, like an assembly line, or like a, what do you call that line? But they pass it from person to person to person out the boat, and then they pile them up and roll it down the dock into the building. And then when they finish all of that, then the passengers are allowed to get out. And it took me, I'd say, over an hour, maybe an hour and a half to get through the building itself, you know, just to get through customs and immigration and get all my bike gear and have it all assembled. So in fact, I wasn't riding away from the dock until much later. So we left at 11, 12, so 11 to 12 to 1. So we arrived at 1:30. An hour of unloading takes us to 2:30, and then another hour and a half. So about 4 o'clock, I would have been riding my bike away from the dock. And I left my hotel in Dumai at about, you know, before 8 a.m., so call it 8. So essentially my journey lasted from 8 until 4, and then I still had to get to my hotel, so call it 5, you know, by the time I got into my hotel and checked into my room. So even though it's a 2.5 hour boat ride, it actually took from 8 in the morning until 5 to actually, you know, get here into my hotel room and enjoy a cup of coffee. Yeah, uploading, nothing. Still at 6%. I'm connected on my phone. I can play YouTube videos, so this is good. But the MacBook is the weak link in all of this. I think the Wi-Fi card is broken. I think it needs to be replaced. I've been dealing with this issue for a long time, and I knew I'm supposed to get the Wi-Fi card replaced or fixed, and I just can't be bothered. So occasionally it works, and then when it does work, I'm like, okay, I don't need to get it fixed. And then I'm in a situation like this, and I think, I got to get it fixed. And anyway, we'll see what happens. So as for the journey itself, well, I mean, overall, worked out fine. I mean, if I wasn't telling a Planet Doug story, I would just say, yeah, I woke up in my hotel in Sumatra, packed up my bike, rode to the harbor, went through, you know, dropped off, paid for my luggage, you know, checked in for the ferry, went through immigration, got stamped out of the country, no problem. 2.5 hours to get here on a comfortable, fast, modern boat. And I got through immigration in Malaysia. I guess that's the headline, is immigration in Malaysia. You know, they asked me a lot of questions, a lot of questions. And you could see that they were this close to causing problems for me. They really wanted to. And yet somehow, I don't know, maybe they were thinking, you know, let's cut this guy a break or something. Because one thing is, when you arrive on this boat as a foreigner, I'm the only foreigner. I don't know how many people were on this boat, let's just say 200. They're all Indonesians for the most part. I would say 90% Indonesians who are coming into the country either to visit family or coming here for work. So processing them takes a long time. So they know they've got a lot of work to do processing that group. So when I show up, and even if they're a little bit suspicious of me and aren't happy with my answers, do they really want to spend time dealing with me when they've got 200 other people that they have to deal with? So eventually they stamped my passport and I got 90 days, the normal 90-day social visit pass is what they call it here. So very happy about that. And today, I was getting all these notifications on my phone this morning because I have a reminder set up about when my Sumatran visa expired, and it expired today. So now all my phones are going beep, 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 beep. You know, your Indonesian visa expires. You better be out of the country. And here I am, successfully out of the country. So all good news, basically. No problems at all with the journey. No problems with immigration. No problems with customs. Customs did open up my bags. You know, I have my trailer in particular. It's a very unusual piece of luggage. And when customs saw that, they were okay, we have to look at that. Like, bring that over here. And then I opened up the trailer and they rummaged through it, and it's like, okay, those are bicycle tools, those are bike parts, the camping gear, clothing, you know, my kettle, you know, cooking equipment. So then, yeah, they checked everything pretty carefully, but then they let me go through. So everything worked out fine. But again, this is Planet Doug we're talking about. And on this planet, things are never as easy as they might appear on the surface. So I had to pack very carefully, of course, because I've got, you know, a bicycle and a trailer, and that's unusual luggage. And I have to pack in a certain way to put things in certain places and make sure nothing gets damaged and everything can be handled correctly. So I spent a long time the day before getting all of my luggage ready, and a long time in the morning before I left my hotel packing up. And then I got everything ready, got on my bike, and I rode down to the dock. And that's when the issues began. And the main problem are the porters. The porters in Indonesia function a little bit like taxi drivers, where they're a little bit unregulated, and they're you know, they carry bags for passengers in the hope of getting a tip. You know, makes sense. You know, they come up to you and they carry your bag for you, and then they get a tip at the end. But in my case, most of the time, of course, I don't need help. I can carry my own bag. So when I go to airports and places like that, and the porter says, oh, you know, can I help you? And I'm like, oh, no, I'm okay. I can carry my own bag. But when you show, even with the bicycle and the trailer, everything is connected together. I can just roll it along. Technically, I don't really need anybody to carry anything. Everything is on wheels. But we're talking about a boat. And once you check in for the ferry, now I have to go through immigration, and all of my luggage has to be taken onto the boat. And you would think the ferry company would have a system in place for doing it, and they kind of do. Their system is basically just to leave it up to the local porters. So even though I'm dealing with checking in my luggage onto the Indomall fast ferry, carrying my luggage down the dock, or rolling it in my case down the dock to the boat, is done by the porters who make a living at the port, which is all fine. But chaos and confusion. You know, I go to these places with a certain mindset. I go in there knowing there's going to be chaos and confusion. And I also know what I need to do. I need to go slowly. I have to pay attention to what I'm doing. I've got a lot of things I need to do to prepare the bike and the trailer, and I have to safeguard all of my bags, my passport, my money, my camera gear, all of these things. And I have a very slow and methodical approach. And I go in there telling myself, okay, don't let yourself be rushed, because everybody's going to descend on you. All these porters, all these men, some of them in some kind of porter uniform, some of them in regular street clothes. You don't know who they are, you don't know what they're talking about, and everybody's in your face, and they're grabbing your bike, they're grabbing your bags, they're trying to take it away, they're trying to pick it up, they're trying to move it, and they say, oh, you got to go here, and you got to go here, and everybody's talking to you. And then I'm just like trying to do this Zen thing, you know, just like, Don't pay attention to any of them. Like, don't allow yourself to be rushed. Just do what you need to do. And in my case, for example, I have 2 pannier bags, but the pannier bags are filled with pockets that anybody can unzip and just take out anything they want. So I have another bag, a very lightweight luggage, like vinyl bag, and then I take the 2 pannier bags off my bike one by one. I lock the main zippers on those, like the main compartment is locked, but then they go into this vinyl bag and I close that zipper and I lock that bag. So rather than having 2 pannier bags with all kinds of exposed pockets, I at least now have a sealed vinyl bag with a handle on the top with both pannier bags on the inside. And I have my trailer, and the trailer is quite a high-tech one. It has a special hitch mechanism that locks onto a trailer hitch attached to the bicycle. And if you don't know what you're doing, there's no way you're getting that thing off. I mean, it's designed to stay in place with a locking mechanism. It's very easy to get off, but you have to know the trick. And of course, the porters, they don't know. So what I need to do is unhook the trailer, and then the bar that connects to the trailer, that can be disconnected. And I normally take that bar off, and then I put it inside the trailer itself, and then the wheels of the trailer can be moved. There's a middle position for when you're riding the bike, and then when you put it on, when you're going through an airport or going through a boat terminal like a harbor, you move the wheels to the rear, so now it's like a luggage cart and you can pull it behind me. So I need to do all of these things, but before I can even do any of that, I have to go to the desk where they're checking in passengers for the ferry. So I've got to get out my passport. I've got all these people in my face, grabbing at the bike, grabbing at the bags, doing things. And I'm telling everyone, no, 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 just leave it alone. Don't touch anything. I've got to go check in. I got to get my passport out. And then I go up to there, you know, and I have no idea what's going on there. Of course, the systems, all I can do is hand over my passport and my ticket. And hopefully the woman there will tell me if I need to do anything, you know. So it's all chaos and confusion there. People crowding around from all sides. And then I'm going through that, and then you move down to another counter where this woman has this calculator kind of thing that gives a paper printout, and she's like busy doing things and talking to her, and she says to me, oh, 25,000 rupiah. I have to pay 25,000 rupiah. I don't know what for. I have no idea what it is, but okay, I got to pay 25,000 rupiah, so I give her 25,000, and she prints out this receipt, and I've got my ticket and my passport. I turn around to go back to my bike, and it's gone. Like, everything is gone. The bike's gone, the trailer's gone, the pannier bag, it's just not there anymore. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, where did it go? And it turns out the way they board people for this ferry, to me, it's a very poor system, because you're entering the dock area and the check-in counter is here, but then the luggage area is on the far side of the check-in counter. That's where the scale is. So to me, it should be here. Like, you show up and the first thing you do is deal with your luggage, right? You should come up here, start with your luggage, and then go on to the next stage. But they have the luggage area on the far side. And all these men that have been crowding around me, they took it upon themselves just to take my whole bike with the trailer still attached and the pannier bag still attached, and just roll it, you know, past the check-in area to sort of the luggage area. And there it was. And there were 2 or 3 men on their knees just yanking away at the trailer because they're trying to disconnect the trailer from the bike, because you pay one fee for the bike. It doesn't matter how much the bike weighs. I think that was the 25,000 I paid, was for the bike, which is the bargain of a lifetime, by the way. But the trailer has to be weighed, because that's actual luggage. So these guys are trying to disconnect the trailer. And as I said, if you don't know how to do it, you're not getting that trailer off. But of course, they're trying, you know, they're twisting and they're pulling and they're yanking on it. And this other guy's like, no, no, what you got to do is you got to go there and you got to do this, right? And I'm like, so I go walking over there. It's like, stop. You know, let me do it. But first I have to deal with the pannier bags, take them off, put them in the bag. Everybody's standing around watching me do this, telling me things, pointing, go, you got to go here, and okay, you got, go do this. Everybody is just talking to me and in my face, and I'm just like, oh, zen, zen. Just slow down, take your time. Okay, my passport. Okay, yes, I put it away, my wallet, everything is good. Now I can do the pannier bags, I do that. Now I go to the trailer, and these guys, as soon as I'm unhooking the trailer, they're grabbing the trailer and trying to drag it away. And this time they were successful. What I wanted to do was move the wheels, disconnect the trailer arm, put it into the bag, relock everything, but there were so many men grabbing it, it just kind of got taken out of my hands. And they bring it over to the luggage rack. And I mean, to me, it's a very simple thing. Here's the trailer, here's the wheels, and you just put it on edge on the scale and weigh it. But there were so many men involved in this activity, and nobody could figure out how to put the trailer on the scale because it's kind of big and bulky. And they ended up putting the whole thing flat on its side, resting on the wheel. And I'm like, oh, don't do that, because the full weight of the trailer is now pressing down on the wheel, and it's going to bend the rim and bend the spokes and damage the axle and the locking mechanism. And I'm like, it just drives me crazy. And I talk about this all the time, that when you go bike touring, I'd say 90% of the damage that occurs to your bike happens in these situations. It's, riding the bike, it's fine. It's what it's designed to do. But as soon as you try to take your bicycle and put it on a plane or a bus or a boat, the manhandling of it is what does all the damage. Your wheels get bent, your spokes get broken, your rear derailleur gets pulled out of position. It's just such a mess. And so anyway, all that was going on, and they had to weigh the pannier bags, and then I had to pay that. They totaled everything up, and it came to 125, I think, 125,000 rupiah for all of my luggage. So 125,000 by weight, 25,000 for the bicycle, which is 150,000, right? Which is $10 US, which again is the bargain of a lifetime. $10 to bring all of my luggage. I have a lot, it's very heavy. And my bicycle, $10 to bring it. You're not doing that at an airport, I can tell you that. So that is one advantage of going by ferry. Despite all these problems I've been talking about, it's still easier than putting your bike on an airplane. Because for an airplane, of course, you have to take the whole bike apart, put it inside a cardboard box. And you can't ride your bike to the airport. And, here I could just ride my bike right to the dock. So in the end, it's still easier to go by ferry. But anyway, I had to pay the 125,000, so I did that. And then I turned around. These guys, oh man, they were trying to reattach the trailer to the bike. For some reason, they got it in their heads, all these porters, that the thing to do was to roll the bike down the dock with the trailer attached, and with the vinyl bag with the pannier bags kind of plopped on top of the trailer. And my idea is, no, you take them separately, roll the bike, and then you can grab, the arm on the trailer and then just roll it along. You don't need them attached to do that. The whole point of this trailer, one of the main design features, is you can move the wheels to the back, and it's like a perfect luggage cart. It's like a suitcase on wheels. And that's the designers who built this thing. That's one of their genius ideas that they came up with. But these guys were insisting, and they were trying to, jam the locking mechanism to reattach the trailer, and they weren't able to do it. But there's also a braided metal cable. It's a safety cable. So you attach the safety cable over the hitch, and then you attach the locking mechanism. And that's designed so if, for whatever reason, you don't attach it properly and the trailer pops off, it has a cable holding it in place. but it's not designed to really pull the trailer using that cable. It's there just as an emergency measure. But these guys figured out that they could take this cable and sort of jam it on top of the trailer hitch, and then the trailer is just sort of dangling there and bouncing around on the cable. And they figure, okay, now we can roll the bike. And I'm jumping in there going, stop, no, stop, 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 stop. You can't do that because this whole thing is going to swing into the spokes. It's going to break something. So I get in there and I take the safety cable off, and I'm talking to the guys. I'm like, no, like, separate, like, don't attach them. I mean, I could have reattached the trailer with the original main locking mechanism, but I'm not going to do that because by the time they get it down to the boat, they're not going to be able to take it apart again, and they're just going to break it. I don't know, they're going to get out a hacksaw and cut it off or something. So I'm not going to attach the trailer. I show them, you just pull the trailer, it's got wheels, and then roll the bike. Two, you got, how many men are standing around me? 2 men, one to roll the bike, one to roll the trailer. Like, let's go. So I deal with that, but I can't physically go beyond that point. At that point, I have to stop. I can't physically go any further than that. I have to go into the building and then go through the official immigration procedures. So I have no choice at this point but just to leave and just leave it up to them to finally do it. So I leave all these guys, the crowd of men around my bicycle, go over to the door to go into the main port building, and then the security guards there, they stop me. I thought they needed something from me to see my passport or tickets or something, but they wanted to take selfies with me. I was, the foreigner of the day, so they wanted to take pictures with me. So I'm standing there, taking pictures with the security guards, and out of the corner of my eye, I see that all the porters, they've just taken the safety cable again, and we're trying to jam it back into place, and then somehow they were successful, I guess, and then they just started rolling my bike, with the trailer attached by this cable, like bouncing around. It's like, oh, for Pete's sake. It's like, there's nothing I can do about it at that point. I just let it go. So then I go into the building, and then what happened there? Oh yeah, I had to go. I was told to go up to this counter, and you have to pay a tax. There was, I think it was 10,000 for local people, 50,000 for foreigners. I don't know what the tax is for. Harbor tax, pay for the docks or something. And so I paid my 50,000. I knew about this in advance. The ferry company had told me about it, that you're going to have to pay a 50,000 rupiah fee at the dock. So I paid that. And then I went into sort of the departure gate, the main area where people would sit. And then there too, there was confusion for me because there was no immigration anywhere. Like, I need to go through immigration, and yet there was no way to actually go through immigration. There was no immigration windows or counters, and everybody was just sitting. It was like we were in the departure gate at an airport, and yet I had never gone through immigration. So I figured I must have missed it, like somehow I got to this point. So now I'm walking around and trying to figure out, like, did I walk right by it? Did I somehow just wander right into the boat area without going through immigration? So I'm trying to figure all that out. But it turns out that this waiting area is before immigration, and then eventually they're going to let people through this gate group by group. And then there's an immigration counters on the other side. And then after you go through immigration, then you can finally get on the boat. Anyway, I was a little bit worried because, the clock was ticking by this point. We're getting closer and closer to the time when the boat is supposed to leave. And I still haven't gone through immigration. I mean, I can't relax until I've gotten through immigration. And it's not like I can sit in the waiting area and just like, just enjoy life. I'm a little bit stressed out by this point, and I can't really relax until I'm stamped out of the country, and then I can wait by the boat, but I want to go through immigration first. But anyway, that's not the way the system works there. And then even how they were getting people to go through the gate, they were only letting them go through in batches, but I couldn't figure out what the system was. they would just sort of come out to the seating area. It was quite a complicated area, whole bunch of chairs here, then some around the corner, way down in that direction, and then some off in this direction. And then the guy would just sort of come out and kind of regally wave his arm over a section, you know. And then I guess people could just sort of decide whether the arm wave included them or didn't, and then a whole bunch of people would jump up and just run there and try to get in line and get through to the immigration area. So I'm sitting, and the arm wave never extends in my direction. So I'm thinking, when is it going to be my turn? What the heck is going on here? So I started moving to different areas, like getting closer to the front. And I finally got a seat, sort of near the front area, hoping that the next time the guy comes out, his sweeping arm would kind of like go over the area where I'm sitting, and I can get up and go in with the rest of these people. Or I thought, the closer I get to the front area, maybe one of these officials will sort of see me, and it's like, oh, okay, dumb foreigner alert. We're dealing with a dumb foreigner. Let's go out there and hold his hand, before he starts crying or something. And maybe they would just give me special treatment. Like, oh, we got one foreigner here, and he'll point at me and go, okay, you come. You have to go there. And he'll explain it to me, okay, now you have to go through immigration. But that never happened. So I'm sitting there, and then he comes out and he waves off in this direction. And he waves off, and I'm like, oh, come on. When are you going to wave in my general direction? And then eventually he did, just sort of like his arm wave sort of included me in my area. And then I was able to go through. And then they got this big, long, snaking line that goes all the way up to the 4. At first I thought there was only one immigration guy. And it was like, oh, that's why it's taking so long. But then when I got closer to the front, I saw there were actually 4 windows. And I was curious about the system because I noticed that maybe 20% of the people who tried to go through immigration got turned away. And they had to go into a room for like a processing interview of some kind. So whatever their situation was, they're talking to the immigration officer, answering their questions, and then the immigration officer would decide, okay, you can go, or no, we have to investigate you further, and he'd hand off the passport to another man, and then they would escort them back to these rooms in the back. And they were just like jammed with people, and there's all these officers sitting at tables, looking at their passports and asking them questions, and I guess deciding whether they're going to let them on the boat or not. I assumed, of course, that I was going to be part of that group because I was the most unusual person there, and I figured I would be, sent into one of these rooms and wait for another interview. But luckily, that didn't happen. The guy just took my passport and stamped it, and I was allowed to make my way to the boat. And then the porter situation kicked back in, and I knew it was. I've done this before. I know what the scene is. I know how things work. So all the porters who had finally taken my bike and trailer and bag down to the boat, they just left all my luggage on the dock. You'd think, okay, now they're going to put it on the boat, but they're no dummies. They want to get paid first. So it's like a little bit of a low-level extortion. They just left all my luggage sitting on the dock, and they're waiting for me. They brought it there, but they're not going to put it on the boat until they get paid. And if you don't pay them, it's just going to stay on the dock, right? It's like, okay, yeah, they have you over a barrel, basically. There's nothing you can do but pay them. And so they came rushing up to me as I walked up to them, and they wanted acknowledgement that they did a good job. They sort of brought me over to my bike and says, here is your bicycle, here is your trailer, here is your bag, everything is okay, right? Everything is good, everything is okay, everything is good. And no, nothing was good. Everything they had done was wrong from my point of view, but of course I'm like, oh yeah, okay. And I had prepared money in advance. Like I knew I was going to have to pay these guys at some point. And even if they weren't waiting for me, my plan was to go find them because I knew I was supposed to pay somebody, but I thought I would have to pay as I was checking in, like as we were dealing with the bike at the beginning, I assumed at that point I would have to give them money. But nobody asked for money. There seemed to be no situation. They just sort of grabbed my bike and took off with it while I was having selfies taken. So I figured maybe we'd made a mistake at that point. I was supposed to pay them, but I hadn't yet. So I was going to go find the guys and pay them. That was what I was thinking. But then, of course, they were waiting for me. And I guess that's how the system works here. They just sort of put your luggage aside and leave it there off the boat until you show up. And then once you pay them, then it gets carried onto the boat. But then, again, at that point, I wasn't sure who to pay. I didn't know how much to pay, obviously, and they're not going to tell me because, you know, dumb foreigner, they're just hoping I'll just pay them more. I don't know what the standard rate is. Like, I think there is, like, everybody in Indonesia knows if they carry 3 bags for you, it's whatever, 10,000 rupiah per bag or something like that, that you pay the porter. There's a set amount, not official. You know, it's not like there's a ticket and a price list, but everybody knows what the amount is. But I don't know, and certainly even if I knew, that amount doesn't apply to a bicycle and a trailer. I mean, this is a special deal, and I just happen to have leftover 100,000 rupiah notes. That's all I had in my wallet. You know, I had a few like 2,000 rupiah notes, 1,000 rupiah notes, but they have no value really. So for me to pay these guys, you know, the minimum I could pay them was 100,000 rupiah. And to me, that seemed more than sufficient. And so I was kind of looking at all these guys, and everyone's attention seemed to be on one porter in particular. He seemed to be the leader, and I thought, well, I'll just treat you like the leader, and I took the 100,000 rupiah note and gave it to him. And based on the reaction of everybody was happy. That 100,000 rupiah was enough to pay for, you know, my bicycle and the trailer, and probably more than enough. It was probably double what I needed to pay. I think the amount would have been normally like 50,000 for that, but what do I care? So I gave the guy 100,000. He was very happy with it. Everybody's happy, and then finally I was able to get back. Because my bike and my trailer was there, I was able to get back to it, and then I managed, I was like, wait, stop. And I disconnected the cable that they had jammed into place. You know, it was like, just keep them apart. Like, if they tried to roll the bike and the trailer together, they both would have fallen into the ocean. So I disconnected the cable, and then I took the wheels on the trailer and moved them from the middle position to the rear position. And I showed them how that was a good thing, because now you can just pick up the front of the trailer and just roll it along. And I was going to remove the arm, the connecting arm, because it disconnects, to make it shorter and smaller, and put it into the bag and but it seemed like in this situation leaving the arm on would be good, because they can use it to roll it along. And if they put the trailer into the cargo hold and they're lowering it into the hold, they can hold on to the arm, and then it would give them another place to hold on to the trailer. So I thought, I'll just leave the arm attached, just leave it there. And then I could go to the bike and take the mirror and, you know, push the mirror in so that it's not going to, you know, hit anything and get broken. And I can go over everything and just make sure everything is in place and everything is okay. Got everything ready. And then I got on the boat. And then I watched the doorway, of course, and eventually I saw my trailer come on board, I saw my bag come on board, and then I saw the bike. And they didn't put the bike or the trailer into the cargo hold. They just sort of left them near the gangplank, you know, near the main entrance. And I just leaned my bike up against the wall, and then they put my trailer against the wall there as well. So everything everything worked out in the end. But by then, man, yeah, I was stressed out. I mean, it's hot, obviously. It was extremely hot there, humid. I was the only one in the entire dock wearing shorts. all the Indonesians had kind of dressed up a little bit. They were all, because they're entering Malaysia and they want to make a good impression. So I think they're wearing some of their nicer clothing. They're all wearing socks and shoes, all shiny shoes, and nice shirts with collars and long pants. And I was the typical foreigner wearing the backpacker uniform of t-shirt and, you know, cargo shorts basically, and sandals. But even wearing clothing like that, I was sweating. I was hot and sweaty and uncomfortable. And it kind of continued along that way for the rest of the journey. It was a very short journey, as I said, 2.5 hours, faster than I thought. But the boat was crowded. All the other boats I've taken have not had a lot of people on board, so there's a lot of elbow room, and it was very relaxing. At least it felt that way to me, and I really just enjoyed the trip. And of course, when I did the trip last time, I treated it like a big event. I had my 360 camera, and I wanted to record everything. I shot video when the boat, I went all up and down the boat and shot video of everything. The cargo hold, I even lowered my 360 camera down into the cargo hold so you can see what that looks like. And when we were out in the ocean, I went outside the boat. There's like one small area where the men go to smoke. It's the only place you can go outside. Everything else is sealed. And I would go back there, and I had my 360 camera, and I'm filming everything, lowering my camera. You know, I made a big meal out of the video experience. But on this trip, coming here, I just wasn't in the mood. I was pretty blasé about it. I never even went outside. So I never went out to the smoking area. I never shot video of the ocean. You know, if I were being a good YouTuber, I would have made sure to be at a window. I didn't even try to get a seat at a window. I just sat in the interior of the boat. Just like, all I'm going to do is sit in this chair and listen to podcasts for a couple hours. And then, you know, I talked into the GoPro a little bit, basically telling the same story, but in a shortened, you know, condensed version. I didn't really film any of the action that I'm describing. I didn't have a GoPro on a chest harness. There's no way I could have held a camera in my hand and filmed what was going on. It was all I could do just to deal with checking in and dealing with the porters and my bike. There's just no way I could have taken video of any of this. I could have done it if I had a GoPro on a chest harness, but I just wasn't in the mood to get really complicated with all of this. So yeah, I barely have any video of the trip at all. And I sat down I found a seat. And at first I had the whole row to myself, so I was thinking, oh, the boat's going to be kind of empty. But somehow or other, even though I was one of the last people to board, you know, to get on, after I got on, more and more and more people kept coming and coming and coming until the whole boat was practically filled. And a lot, you know, they were all Indonesians, and of course, they tried to get away with paying as little as possible. So rather than check the bags, just like going on an airplane, they tried to take all their luggage as carry-on. So all the people who got into my row just piled in there with piles and piles and piles of bags. They filled their whole seat with bags, and then that left no room for them. So they actually had to perch on just a little ledge of the seat, like way up at the front with all their bags behind them. And the guy beside me had piled up this huge pile, and then one bag went on the very top of this mountain, and then every time the boat kind of tilted, the bag would fall off and hit me, right? So the guy said, oh, and he would take the bag, and he just put it right back in the same spot. Next time the boat kind of tilted, whack, the bag falls over again, hits me. And again, maybe I'm a crazy person, you know, maybe I'm totally out of my mind, but I'm thinking the very first time my bag falls over, well, I'm putting it somewhere else so it doesn't fall over again. But for the entire journey all the way to Malaysia, this guy put the bag back in the exact same spot every time, and it was just a matter of time before it fell over and hit me again. And he would just pick it up and put it right back there, just like, I don't understand people. I just don't. I just don't get them. The things we do as a human species, I don't understand it. Anyway, I'm looking up at that bag and thinking, yeah, it's going to whack me again pretty soon. Whack. And he takes the bag, puts it back up there. And I happen to be sitting at the very back of the boat, one of my superpowers, of course, is to pick the worst possible seat in all situations. And somehow when I got on the boat, I thought that was a pretty good seat, but I happened to be choosing a seat right at the back of the boat, near the doors to the smoking area and near the bathrooms. And all the men on the boat, of course, all the Indonesian men, I would say 100% of them smoke. So throughout the entire journey, they would make trips back and forth from their seat to the area, smoke a cigarette, back to their seat, go back, smoke another cigarette. Just the entire journey, just a constant flow of people going by me, going to the smoking area or into the bathrooms. And of course, everybody's carrying bags, doing things, and I'm just getting whacked in the head. People going by, whack, whack. They're whacking my arm, whack, whack, whack. You know, people trying to push past other people, because for some reason there were like big crowds of people. I think the smoking area, I never went back there to even look, but I think it was so small that there wasn't enough room for all the smokers, and the smokers had to wait for their turn. Like when one guy would come out, then one guy could go in. So all these men were like filling up the alleys, the laneways beside the seats. So the area beside me would be filled with all these men waiting to go out to the smoking area, but the bathrooms are right there as well. So other people would come to try and get by these men so they could go to the bathrooms, right? And of course, to do that, everybody's got to kind of move out of the way, and they're all leaning into my area and hitting me and whacking me. So the journey, as easy as it was from immigration formality point of view, and I mean, the boat didn't sink, so that's a win. It only took 2.5 hours, so that's a win. I mean, I had no problems with anything along the way. However, the journey was tiring. It was exhausting. Yeah, man, it was a pretty rough trip overall, just because of the porter situation, getting my bike on the boat, and then just the seating arrangement on the boat and the crowding and people. I was like, people can't like stay in your seat. I couldn't figure out why so many people had to be on the move. It wasn't just going to the bathroom, and it wasn't just going to the smoking area. It's like nobody would ever just stay in their seat. Everybody was just roaming around all the time. It was a really chaotic journey, I thought, and it was kind of exhausting, you know. Yeah, kind of tiring. And then on this end too, I got through immigration, and then I had to get my bags. So when they unloaded the boat, they brought all the bags into this very small area, like a hallway, on the other side of the immigration booth. So I suppose I should talk about immigration a little bit, because when I was standing in line waiting for my turn, an immigration officer came up to me, because they do this, you know, they're pre-screening, right? And this happened to me when I went from Malaysia to Sumatra. They came up to me in line, you know, to sort of pre-screen me and asking me all these questions, and then they eventually decided, no, come with me, sir. And they did take me to a back room for a big, long interview, and that's when they told me, you know, I would never be allowed to return to Malaysia again. You know, they gave me the choice. They said, well, okay, now, I don't know if you remember this whole story, but they said, you can get on this boat and go to Sumatra if you want, but we're not going to let you back into Malaysia. You know, that's it. You can't come back. And then eventually, through a lot of discussion and everything, they eventually relented and said, oh, okay, you know, we're not going to blacklist you or anything, and then we're going to let you go. So this time coming back, the same thing was starting to happen, where a very official man, very big man actually, very tall, broad-shouldered kind of guy in his official immigration uniform, he starts asking me questions before I even got to the window, you know, who I am and where I've come from, and basically what I've figured out is that they really just want to hear that you're going to go home, right? Okay, you want to come into Malaysia, that's fine, but when are you leaving? And not just when are you leaving, because I'd be telling these guys my whole song and dance about, oh, I'm riding my bike and I'm traveling. So like, where am I going to go? I'm going to enter into Malaysia, ride my bicycle. Whether I do or not, I don't know. But you know, whether I will or not, I don't know. But that's what I tell them. That's my story. And then I'm going to go to Thailand. So I basically tell them I'm leaving the country. This is how I'm leaving. But they're not really buying it. You know, I started listing more countries because he didn't seem to be impressed with my story. And I says, well, I'm going to ride my bike into Thailand, right? And then I'm traveling, you know, and I'm not actually traveling around the world. I can't make that claim, but that's what I would tell him. So yeah, you know, I'm traveling around the world by bicycle, and I'm going to go into Thailand and then Cambodia and then Vietnam. And I'm listing all these countries that are farther and farther away from Malaysia, hoping to see him approve. But nah, he wasn't buying it. What he's waiting for, and he eventually asked me, he says, okay, that's well and good. You're going to go here and here and here and here. Okay, I got that. When are you going back to Canada? That's what he wanted to know. And I says, what? And I have no plans to go back to Canada. I certainly don't have a ticket. I don't have a schedule. But then I says, oh, like after Vietnam, then I go back to Canada. And then he was like, okay, all right. And he thought about it, you know, processing, looking at me, and okay. And then he went away. And then I went up to the official immigration window where I have to do this all over again because this guy asked me all the same questions. And then again, he did exactly the same thing. You know, it's like, okay, where are you going to go? How long are you going to be in Malaysia? What are you going to do while you're here? And then how long are you going to stay? And I'm telling him about how I'm going to go to Thailand and da-da-da-da-da. And then he, of course, he says the same thing. And Canada? Like, when are you going to go to Canada? And I gave him the same answer. I volunteered it earlier. I put it into my story. And then I said, and after that, and then I go back to Canada. And I could just see his demeanor change. He was sort of like waiting. He was like leaning forward, holding my passport. He's got all the power. He's got the computer. He's got the stamps. And he's like waiting and he's waiting for the magic word. And it turns out the magic word is Canada. As long as I say at some point in my story, I'm going back home to Canada, he's like, oh, okay, Canada. All right, okay, now we're happy. It's so funny. Everybody just wants you to go home. You know, it's like, oh, you're welcome to come to, just make sure you go home again. You know, it's like, yes, welcome to, but make sure you go home. You're going home, right? And yeah, it's understandable. It's almost like having a guest at your house. Someone's coming to your city and you make the offer. So, oh, you know, if you need a place to stay, yeah, come stay at my place. But for how long? You know, you're more than happy to have a guest staying at your home, but you kind of want to know when they're going to go back to their home, you know? So countries are the same thing. So all these immigration officers, they're waiting for the magic word. And in my case, the magic word was Canada. I was wearing this shirt and I had Canada on the shirt. And I said, and then I'm going back to Canada. Ah, you know, the balloons pop, you know, the confetti comes down, everyone's cheering. Yay, he's going back to Canada. Now we can stamp him into Malaysia. So that's how that worked out. And then I got into the luggage claim area, and that was pretty hard to do as well because it was just jammed. It's a very small area. It's not like an airport with luggage claim. It's really just the area behind the immigration booths, and they just sort of stacked up all the luggage there, and I could see my trailer, and I could see my bike, and I could see my other bag, but it was just like there's nowhere to move in there. And then I still hadn't gone through customs. So I went into that area and I had to give the guys my ticket, and it has my name on it and it has number 5 on it, and there were labels on my bike, trailer, and bag. It said Douglas number 5, you know, so we gathered together all of my stuff. And these were all Indomal employees. These were not harbor employees. These were all the guys from the boat. And then they kind of, I was going to help them. You know, I kind of feel bad because my trailer, it is big and heavy and awkward, But if you know how to carry it, how to maneuver it, it's actually really easy and efficient. So I'm always jumping in and trying to help. Like I don't want this poor guy to be trying to lift that trailer and like falling over and really struggling with it. I want to get in there and do it for him because I can do it so much easier than someone who's not familiar with, you know, how this trailer is designed. But in this case, they can't let me do that because I'm not actually in the country yet. You know, I've gone through immigration, but my bags have to go through customs and they don't want me to touch it. So this poor guy is trying to get my trailer over to this giant X-ray machine and, you know, put it onto the conveyor belt. But, you know, my trailer is, as I keep saying, it's a big awkward piece of gear when it's set up like a trailer. And I'm trying to explain to the guy, well, I can take the wheels off because it's quite wide with the two wheels on it, but the way the trailer is designed, push of a button, both wheels, you know, pop right off, and then it becomes like a suitcase, and then it would be able to go through very easily. So I'm trying to interfere, you know, I'm trying to intervene and say, listen, I can take the wheels off and we can, you know, and they just don't want to hear anything about it. So they're like, trying to get, they're wrestling with this thing and trying to get it onto the conveyor belt and send it through. And eventually they did it. I'm always amazed because I've had this experience before, and the trailer with the wheels attached will actually make it through one of these standard issue X-ray machines that you see at airports, which always amazes me. I don't think the thing is going to fit, but it does fit. But of course, when it pops out the other side, I mean, it's an event. You know how, you know, suitcases go through the conveyor belt, and if people don't grab them on the other side quick enough, you know, they start running into each other. You get a big log jam of suitcases. And when my trailer just comes thundering through there, you know, just, and you know, you got to move it from the other end. But again, they wouldn't let me touch it, and then they had to do it themselves, and they really struggled. And then all the customs inspectors, they were watching all of this, you know, it's like a Three Stooges show in front of them, you know, it's quite entertaining, so they're watching it. So they really focused on that trailer, and they're like, yeah, we need to see what's inside that thing, you know, bring it over here. Because a lot of the other luggage, you know, they're just letting it go through, you know, they can't inspect everything by hand. They pick and choose, but they saw that trailer come out of the X-ray machine. They're like, what the heck is that? Yeah, we need to take a look at that thing, bring it over here. So I think at that point I was able to pick it up. No, even then the guy insisted on doing it himself, you know, because that trailer even has two straps built into it that are meant for lifting it. And I know about those two straps, and I would just grab the two straps, pick it up, put it on the big, you know, aluminum counter, you know, that they use. But this guy doesn't know about that, and he's trying to get his arms around the trailer. He's trying to pick it up. And I'm like, it'd be a lot easier if I did it, I'm telling you, but go for it. And then, of course, the customs inspector had to figure out what to do with this thing. And then she's sort of looking at it, and then she's looking at it, and then she looks at me and says, like, open it. Like, can you please open it? Like, we don't know how to get into this thing. And I have a padlock on it, and the key is around my neck. So I had to get the key and undo the zipper and open it up. And I had a tarp on top of the whole thing covering all of the contents. Just kind of looking at that, going, what the heck is this? And like, well, and I had to pull the tarp off. And then everything in the trailer is inside another bag because it's all spare parts for the bike, tools for the bike, tent, sleeping bag, camping gear, stove, all these things. And everything is organized and inside other bags. So it's like one of those Russian dolls, you know, every time you open a doll, there's another doll inside. And so this poor woman's trying to figure out what's in my trailer. And it's really just a bag inside another bag. And she was like, you know, rummaging through there. And she finally focused on one bag in particular because it was really heavy. And it was like, oh man, that's a heavy, for such a small bag, you know, it feels like it has metal in it. And she's okay, can I look? She kept asking for permission. I've never understood that about customs too. They often ask for permission. And she says, oh, can I look inside this? And I'm like, yeah, you know, go knock yourself out. You know, you can look inside anything you want. I don't know why they ask permission. They obviously have the right to do whatever they want. They can open anything they want to open. But anyway, she asked, is it okay if I open this? And I'm like, yeah, go for it. And then and inside that was a bunch more bags, like Ziploc bags and things. And she's like, I don't know what's in this. Like, can you tell me what is any of this stuff? He says, well, those are all tools and, grease and oil and spare parts for my bicycle. I have a bicycle, and those are all the tools and things I need to work on the bike. But you can't actually see any of the tools because everything is in individual bags and whatnot. And she eventually is like, yeah, okay, whatever, just get out of here. We have no idea who you are, what you're doing, what any of this stuff is, but on your way. So yeah, I zipped it all together. And at that point, finally, I was able to take control of my life again. Customs was done, immigration was done, the ferry was done. I was in Malaysia, but I still had to get out of the building. And it turned out that was pretty complicated because it's a pretty small building. And what I did, and I thought it made sense to me at the time, maybe there's a better way to do it, but the whole thing is designed for the trailer to connect to the bike, pannier bags on the bike, and it all rolls as one unit. That's the most efficient way to move. So I took the time to attach the trailer and take the pannier bags out of the vinyl bag and wrap up the vinyl bag and put it away and attach the pannier bags. And then I started rolling the bike, and I hadn't gone like 10 feet, and then I came to a 90-degree turn. It was like a hallway, and I had to turn left like 90 degrees. And my bike and trailer is a little bit like a transport truck. It can't make tight corners like that. So I put everything together, and I went like 10 feet, and I tried to turn the corner because they had all these chairs, and there were security guards, and there was all kinds of stuff there. And yeah, I couldn't make a wide enough turn to get around the corner. So I was like, for Pete's sake. And then I had to unhook the trailer, put my bike around, bring the trailer around, hook it up again. And other people with luggage, they're all trying to get past me. So there's a guy in a wheelchair who was trying to navigate all of this. And then I had to do a couple of more turns. And then I finally got outside the building. And then there were stairs, it was like a sequence of steps. I was like, for Pete's sake, now I got to take everything apart again and carry everything down the stairs. And there was a wheelchair ramp, but there wasn't a hope of my bike and trailer making the corners on that wheelchair ramp. I don't even know how wheelchairs can make those tight corners. So I was like, yeah, I can't go down the ramp. So now I'm disconnecting the trailer again, and then I'm picking up my bike. And my bike was really heavy because I had full water bottles on it, and I had my 2 pannier bags on it. And to pick that up and carry it down the steps is a bit of an effort. And then I have to go back and get the trailer and bring the trailer down and hook it back up again. After all that, I was finally able to cycle away and come here to the seafront. And then, of course, all the normal issues start to kick in. My theme for the day, or at least my theme for my arrival, I was shooting a little bit of video at this time, but not a great deal. But I was talking about how it would feel to be back in Malaysia compared to Sumatra. What are the differences? And I noticed all kinds of differences right away. With the highway, like the road was in much better condition, smooth pavement the whole way. Traffic was completely different because everywhere I went in Sumatra, every road had like those huge trucks thundering in all directions. No matter how big or small the road was, it was always filled with these giant trucks. But here, of course, a normal city street just has normal city traffic and much, much less traffic than Sumatra. So that was the first thing I noticed. I also noticed that nobody asked me where I was from. In Sumatra, everybody, like, the first thing they want to know is, where are you from? People are very socially brave in Sumatra. Everybody wants to talk to me, and everyone I spoke with, I always want to know where I'm from. And here in Malaysia, lots of people, they see the bike. Everybody loves cyclists. If they see you with a touring bike, they have this image of you going off on a big world adventure, and all the Malaysians here driving by in the cars would honk their horn and give me a big thumbs up. And if people were outside by their car or something, they would shout something very encouraging, like, "Oh, that's wonderful, that's great," And so I ended up talking to a lot of people, and I had dinner here just outside my hotel at a little restaurant there, and all the wait staff came up to me because they were interested in my GoPro. I had a little tablet. They wanted to see what TV show I was watching on my tablet. So they're all talking to me. Everybody's talking to me, but not one person asked me where I was from. Nobody. Lots of people talk to me here in Malaysia, but the standard question from Sumatra, like, where are you from, disappeared all of a sudden. And I guess in Malaysia, of course, they're much more accustomed to foreigners. You get a lot of tourism here. Someone like me is not such a big deal to a Malaysian. So, it's like, oh, he's a foreigner. He's from somewhere. We don't really need to know where he's from. So that question disappeared, which is kind of funny. And then I got to this hotel, and then that was a little bit different too, because the check-in procedure was very formal here, very elaborate, and much more formal than in Indonesia. Quite often in Indonesia, as long as they would accept my Agoda reservation, they could see, oh, okay, you've already booked and paid for the room. Then they just give me the key, and that's it. Now, I wouldn't even have to sign in but here, they needed my home address in Canada. They need a phone number in Canada. They need my mobile phone number here in Malaysia. They need the passport number. They need a lot of different things. And of course, there's now the Malaysian tourism tax, which makes my life miserable. Because in this case, I booked this room on Agoda as well, and I paid in advance. And for whatever reason, for this reservation, the tourism tax was also paid in advance. But for whatever reason, nobody knows about that yet at the hotels. So when I checked in here, the guy, when he finished all the formalities, says, okay, now I need to collect the tourism tax from you. And of course I said, no, you do not, because I've already paid. But he's like, how could you have already paid? And he says, well, I paid through Agoda, and now I have to get out my phone and show him the receipt that Agoda sent me, a separate receipt for the tourism tax. And now I have to get him into my WhatsApp system so that I can download a copy of the receipt and email it to him through WhatsApp. And we have to go through this long process, which is always a little bit annoying. So yeah, back in Malaysia, tourism tax again. It's always such a problem. And then here I am. And I guess that is, unless I can think of anything else, I think that is the end of my story. I do feel a bit odd being here right now, because even being in Malaysia, like on this day at this time, wasn't really a choice that I made. I'm here because my visa for Indonesia expired. And to be honest, all things being equal, I probably would have gone back to Sumatra again. Apparently, I really like it there. I mean, I like it here in Malaysia as well, obviously. But I was in the mood for the environment of Sumatra, and I wasn't ready to leave. But really the only reason I did leave was because my visa expired and I couldn't extend it again. But I could have come to Malaysia, stayed here for a little bit, and then gone back to Sumatra one more time and got a brand new visa. But I've done that a number of times this year, and I'm just nervous about immigration, that I'm not going to be able to do it again. If I knew immigration was like no problem at all, like it was an automatic thing, like I could just land in Indonesia, get a new visa, come back to Malaysia, get a new visa, and there wouldn't be any problems, I would have done it. Like if I felt confident that there would be no problems at all, that's probably what I would have done. Because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about food in particular. Malaysian food. Malaysia is famous for its good food, of course, but it's very different from Sumatra, where here I am in my hotel. I have a window in my hotel room, and I'm looking out my hotel. And if this were Sumatra, I'd be looking at 10 places where I could get something to eat, because the streets are just lined with little cafes and restaurants, street stalls, guys on motorcycles, bubur ayam, satay padang, all of it being sold first thing in the morning all over the place. You just step outside and there's just food everywhere. But I'm looking outside my window here at this hotel and there's nothing. I mean, I'm on a road right on the ocean. You know, this is the seafront hotel, so I'm right on the sea, which I guess is nice. I can see the water even from my room here. But there's nothing really here in the way of all that food that I'm used to in Sumatra. Just that chaotic, crazy environment of Sumatra, which can really get on your nerves sometimes, you know, with the trucks and the traffic and the road conditions and things like that. But at the same time, it's just a very easygoing kind of lifestyle where you just step outside and, oh, there's something I can get to eat. It's just, and I kind of miss that. I'm hungry right now, and I'm thinking, well, where am I going to go to get something to eat? You know, I got to go traveling to find someplace to eat. When in Sumatra, you never really have to go very far. You just go outside, and there's food everywhere. Malaysia has a different sort of environment. You've got to go to the place where the food is. The food, it doesn't just appear wherever you are. Anyway, I do miss Sumatra as I'm sitting here right now. But hey, that is the end of my story of taking the ferry from Sumatra to back to Malaysia. Very interesting day yesterday, and I think I'm going to need all of today just to recover from the journey yesterday. I'm just going to relax today. Go out, find something to eat, come back here, fire up my kettle with my new super glued lid, and drink some coffee and just relax for today. All right, that's it. Planet Doug behind the scenes, shutting down, and I'll see you in the next video.